Yeah, Blair, to put this into perspective, they found enough fentanyl to kill 4 times the population of Georgia. That is an alarming statistic, but agents say this is a big step towards keeping our metro Atlanta communities.
4:47 a.m., Minneapolis, Minnesota. The wind cut through the empty streets like a blade. Minus 12 degrees. Ice covered everything. The city was frozen, silent, dead. But inside the FBI field office on Washington Avenue, 143 federal agents were suiting up for war. They wore black tactical gear, body armor, helmets with mounted cameras. Each agent carried a Glock 19 and an M4 carbine. Some carried battering rams. Others carried flashbangs. Their target was Governor Marcus Thornhill, age 58, third term. To Minnesota voters, he was a progressive champion. To the CJNG Cartel, he was the architect of their northern empire. The order came through encrypted channels at 4:51 a.m. All units execute. 18 black SUVs rolled out into the frozen darkness. No lights, no sirens, just the sound of engines and the crunch of ice under heavy tires. If you want to see how deep this corruption goes, hit like right now. The convoy split into 5 strike teams. FBI, DEA, ICE, ATF, U.S. Marshals. Each team had been assigned a critical location. Each location was a piece of the network that Governor Thornhill had built over 7 years. The first target was a warehouse in the Cedar Riverside neighborhood. Intelligence reports called it a community distribution center. Tax records showed it as a non-profit food bank. The truth was darker. Agents approached at 4:58 a.m. The building was 3 stories tall. Brick exterior, steel doors, security cameras on every corner. Floodlights illuminated the loading docks. A 12-man SWAT team moved to the main entrance. The lead agent raised his fist. 3 fingers. 2, 1. The battering ram hit the door with explosive force. Metal screamed. The frame buckled. Second hit. The door collapsed inward. Agents poured through the opening like a black wave. Inside, the warehouse was alive with activity. Workers in surgical masks were packaging white powder into vacuum-sealed bags. Industrial scales sat on metal tables. Hydraulic presses stamped logos onto brick-shaped packages. Someone shouted in Spanish. Workers scattered. 3 men reached for weapons hidden under tables. FBI, drop the weapons. Hands up. Flashbangs detonated. The room filled with blinding light and deafening sound. Workers dropped to the floor. Agents moved through the chaos with practiced precision. Within 90 seconds, 14 suspects were zip-tied and face down on the concrete. But the real discovery came when agents moved deeper into the warehouse. In a climate-controlled room behind a false wall, they found something that made seasoned investigators stop and stare. 2,645 pounds of narcotics. Cocaine, methamphetamine, heroin, fentanyl, all packaged and ready for distribution. The packaging labels showed destinations across 19 states: Chicago, Detroit, Denver, Phoenix, Las Vegas. Each package had a tracking number. Each number corresponded to a delivery route. But it wasn't just drugs. Stacked against the far wall were duffel bags filled with cash. Agents counted for over an hour. $95 million in U.S. currency. Organized by denomination. Vacuum sealed to prevent detection by drug dogs. This wasn't a food bank. This was the distribution headquarters for the CJNG Cartel's entire Midwest operation. If this shocks you, comment expose below. While the first team secured the warehouse, the second unit hit a luxury estate in Edina. The property belonged to Governor Thornhill's chief of staff, a man named Robert Kendrick. The house sat on 4 acres. Gated entrance. Private security. Surveillance cameras covered every approach. Agents breached at 5:03 a.m. The security guards surrendered immediately. They were private contractors, not cartel soldiers. They had no idea what was really happening inside the estate. Federal teams swept through the mansion room by room. Marble floors, crystal chandeliers, original artwork on every wall. The place looked like a museum. But in the basement, behind a wine cellar that held bottles worth $3,000 each, agents found a hidden office. The door was concealed behind a sliding bookshelf. It required a 6-digit code to open. A tech specialist bypassed the lock in 40 seconds. Inside was a command center that belonged in a spy thriller. 6 computer monitors displayed live feeds from security cameras across Minneapolis. Not traffic cameras. Not public surveillance. Private feeds from locations connected to the cartel network. One monitor showed the Cedar Riverside warehouse. Another showed a shipping facility near the airport. A third displayed the interior of a restaurant in downtown Minneapolis. But the most damning evidence sat on the desk. 3 laptops were still running. Encrypted messaging software was active. The screens showed conversations happening in real time. One message sent at 4:39 a.m. read, "Primary site compromised. Initiate protocol blackout." Protocol blackout was the emergency shutdown procedure. It meant destroying evidence, evacuating personnel, and severing all communication with compromised locations. Someone had warned them. Someone with access to operational intelligence had leaked the raid timeline. The cartel knew the FBI was coming. Type yes if you're ready to see who betrayed the system. The third team moved on a shipping facility near Minneapolis-St. Paul International Airport. The company was called Northern Freight Solutions. On paper, it handled agricultural equipment and construction materials. In reality, it was a smuggling operation. Agents entered at 5:11 a.m. The facility was massive, 40 loading bays, dozens of shipping containers, forklifts moving pallets across concrete floors. Workers froze when agents appeared. Some dropped their clipboards and ran. Others raised their hands immediately. K-9 units swept the containers. The dogs alerted on 14 of them within the first 10 minutes. Agents forced the first container open. Inside were industrial farming machines, tractors, plows, irrigation equipment. Everything looked legitimate, but when agents examined the machinery more closely, they found hidden compartments welded into the frames. One tractor held 340 kilograms of cocaine. Another contained 890 pounds of methamphetamine. A third was packed with 1.2 million fentanyl pills. The pills alone could kill half the population of Minnesota. The containers were scheduled to ship that morning. Los Angeles, Houston, Miami. From there, they would be transferred to cargo ships bound for international destinations. But one manifest caught the attention of investigators. A shipment approved by a customs inspector named David Sorensen. He had cleared 89 similar shipments over the past 2 years. All without secondary inspection. All without triggering any alerts. Sorensen was arrested at his home in Bloomington at 6:47 a.m. He was still in his bathrobe when agents knocked on his door. Financial records showed deposits into his account totaling $340,000 over 18 months. The payments came from shell companies registered in Panama and the Cayman Islands. He had been on the cartel payroll the entire time. Share this so more people understand how deep the betrayal goes. By 5:34 a.m., all 5 teams had secured their locations. The radio traffic confirmed what command already knew. This wasn't just corruption. This was infrastructure. Governor Thornhill hadn't just allowed the CJNG Cartel to operate in Minnesota. He had built the system that made it possible. Back at FBI headquarters, cyber forensics teams were cracking the encryption on the laptops seized from Robert Kendrick's estate. The files revealed a network that spanned the entire state and reached into neighboring regions. The operation had a code name, Project Iron Range. It was named after Minnesota's historic mining region. But this wasn't about iron. It was about control. The network consisted of 67 shell companies. Each company had a legitimate business front. Trucking firms, logistics companies, import-export businesses, agricultural suppliers. None of them had real operations. They existed only to move money and narcotics. The financial web was staggering. Wire transfers totaling $847 million had moved through these accounts over 7 years. The money came from CJNG drug sales across the United States. It was laundered through the shell companies, then distributed to corrupt officials who protected the operation. One account belonged to a Minnesota state trooper named Lieutenant James Harlow. He received $8,400 per month for 3 years. His assignment: patrol Interstate 35 and ensure that specific vehicles were never stopped during transport windows. He filed 0 suspicious activity reports during his entire tenure. Another account belonged to a deputy sheriff in Ramsey County named Michelle Torres. She received $11,200 monthly. Her role: coordinate with cartel logistics to ensure that law enforcement presence was minimal in key distribution zones. A third account belonged to a Minneapolis City Council member named Patricia Nguyen. She received $14,600 per month. Her job: push through zoning variances and business permits for cartel front operations without triggering regulatory reviews. All 3 were arrested in coordinated raids between 6 a.m. and 7:30 a.m. None of them resisted. Most were still in their homes when agents arrived. If you support the agents cleaning up our government, comment "Drain the Swamp" below. But the most shocking discovery came when analysts traced the digital signatures on key documents. Every major decision in the network required authorization. Shipping routes, payment schedules, personnel assignments, protection protocols. The authorization codes all traced back to the same source: Governor Marcus Thornhill. His encrypted digital key had been used to approve 214 separate transactions over 6 years. Drug shipments, money transfers, personnel placements. Each one bore his electronic signature. He hadn't just protected the cartel, he had commanded it. Investigators found emails showing Thornhill personally recruiting officials into the network. He identified candidates based on financial vulnerability and access to critical systems. One email from March 2023 showed Thornhill contacting a transportation supervisor named Angela Morrison. She was drowning in medical debt after her daughter's cancer treatment. Thornhill offered her $50,000 upfront and $6,800 per month. Her assignment: approve overweight load permits for trucks carrying concealed narcotics without triggering weigh station inspections. She accepted. Another email from July 2023 showed Thornhill meeting with a state environmental inspector named Carlos Mendez. He had 3 children in college and was facing foreclosure. Thornhill offered him $35,000 immediately and $5,200 monthly. His job: ensure that cartel-operated warehouses passed environmental inspections without secondary review. He also accepted. The emails showed Thornhill's method.
He didn't threaten. He didn't intimidate.
He offered solutions to desperate people. And once they were in, he owned them. This is not corruption. This is command-level treason. Comment investigate if you want to see the full scope of this operation. At 6:18 a.m., a command center activated at the FBI field office. A massive digital map covered the entire wall. Red markers pulsed across Minnesota and into neighboring states. Each marker represented a location connected to Project Iron Range. Warehouses, distribution centers, front businesses, corrupt officials. The map showed 187 targets across 4 states. The operation expanded. Over 1,100 federal agents mobilized.
SWAT teams,
DEA tactical units, ICE enforcement divisions, ATF strike groups, U.S. Marshals. Black Hawk helicopters lifted off from staging areas. Armored vehicles rolled through city streets. U.S. Navy vessels positioned along the Great Lakes to monitor potential water-based escape routes. This wasn't an arrest operation. This was an eradication campaign. At 6:31 a.m., simultaneous raids began across the region. In Duluth, agents hit a cartel superlab hidden inside an abandoned steel mill. The facility was producing 200 kilograms of methamphetamine per week. Workers fled through tunnels beneath the building. K-9 units tracked them down within minutes. In Rochester, a cartel-operated massage parlor was raided. The business was a front for human trafficking. Agents found 17 victims locked in basement rooms. All were undocumented immigrants from Central America. All had been forced into prostitution. In St. Cloud, a trucking depot was stormed. Agents seized 940 pounds of cocaine hidden in refrigerated trailers marked as frozen food shipments. In Mankato, a farmhouse served as a migrant smuggling way station. Agents found 43 people locked in a barn. They had been transported across the southern border and were being held until their families paid additional fees. Each location connected back to the same network. Each operation had been approved, protected, or facilitated by someone with official authority. The underworld took more damage in 6 hours than in the last 6 years. Type expose if you want every corrupt official named publicly. By mid-morning, federal investigators began examining the internal communications seized from Governor Thornhill's office. What they found was a betrayal that cut deeper than anyone expected. The CJNG Cartel had infiltrated law enforcement at every level: state police, county sheriffs, municipal departments, border patrol station, even federal agencies. Investigators identified 94 law enforcement personnel across 4 states who had financial ties to the network. Payments ranged from $3,200 to $18,000 per month. Each officer had been assigned specific duties. Some monitored police radio traffic and reported planned operations to cartel coordinators. Others falsified patrol logs to create gaps in enforcement coverage. Some deleted arrest records or evidence files from digital systems. One state police sergeant named Thomas Whitaker had been paid $12,400 monthly for 4 years. His job: coordinate with cartel logistics to ensure that specific highways were clear during transport windows. He had access to real-time traffic monitoring systems. He knew where every patrol unit was located at any given moment. He used that information to guide cartel convoys through gaps in coverage. Another officer, a deputy named Rebecca Holmes, received $9,800 per month. Her role: ensure that evidence collected during drug arrests was mishandled or lost before reaching trial. She worked in the evidence room. She had access to every piece of physical evidence collected by her department. Over 3 years, she destroyed or contaminated evidence in 67 cases. All 67 cases were dismissed or resulted in acquittals. The pattern was everywhere. Officers who should have been protecting communities were instead protecting criminals. One honest sergeant named Michael Chun described the moment he realized his own department had been compromised. He had planned a raid on a suspected drug house. He shared the details with his team during a morning briefing. The raid was scheduled for 8 p.m. that evening. But when his team arrived, the house was empty. Furniture was still there. Utilities were still connected. But every person, every drug, every piece of evidence was gone. Someone had warned them. Someone in his own department. Chun reported his suspicions to Internal Affairs. The investigation went nowhere. The inspector assigned to the case was later arrested as part of the federal sweep. He had been on the cartel payroll for 5 years. If this makes you angry, hit like now. The scope of the operation extended beyond Minnesota. Federal analysts traced the network into Wisconsin, Iowa, North Dakota, and South Dakota. Governor Thornhill had built a regional empire. Shipping routes connected Minneapolis to Chicago, Detroit, Denver, and Kansas City. Trucks moved narcotics along Interstate 35, Interstate 90, and Interstate 94. The routes were designed to avoid major checkpoints and high-traffic enforcement zones. Way stations were strategically bypassed. When convoys had to pass through inspection points, corrupt officials ensured they were waved through without secondary screening. One trucking manifest showed a shipment that traveled from Minneapolis to Denver without stopping once. The truck carried 1,840 pounds of methamphetamine, disguised as construction materials. The driver was a cartel operative named Luis Vargas. He had made the same route 47 times over 2 years.
He was never stopped, never inspected, never questioned.
Vargas was arrested in Denver on the morning of the raids. He was loading another shipment when federal agents surrounded his truck. He surrendered without resistance. He's now cooperating with investigators in exchange for a reduced sentence. His testimony revealed the full scope of the transportation network. Over 200 trucks were operating on cartel routes at any given time. Each truck carried between 500 and 2,000 pounds of narcotics. The network was moving over 12 tons of drugs per week across the Midwest. And it was all coordinated from Governor Thornhill's office. Share this before it gets buried. The human cost became visible as investigators dug deeper. Hospitals across the Twin Cities had been overwhelmed with overdose cases for years. Emergency rooms reported a 73% increase in fentanyl-related admissions between 2020 and 2025. Paramedics described responding to scenes where entire families had overdosed. Parents and children, siblings, friends who had shared contaminated pills. One paramedic named Sarah Johnson recalled a call in November 2024. A house party in Bloomington. 7 teenagers unresponsive. 4 were revived with Narcan.
3 were not.
The drugs had been purchased from a dealer operating out of a cartel-controlled storefront 3 blocks from the high school. The dealer received his supply from the Cedar Riverside warehouse. The same warehouse raided by federal agents on the morning of January 17th. The chain led directly back to Governor Thornhill. Parents who lost children later learned their deaths were connected to a system protected by the governor's office. The betrayal cut deeper than the grief. One mother named Jennifer Martinez stood outside the state capitol holding a photograph of her son. He was 17 when he died from a fentanyl overdose. He thought he was taking a prescription painkiller. He was dead within 20 minutes. Jennifer's voice shook as she spoke to reporters. "My son trusted the system. We all did. And the system killed him. Type accountability if you believe justice must be served." Federal prosecutors moved with unprecedented speed. Within 96 hours of the raids, a grand jury returned indictments against 127 individuals. Governor Marcus Thornhill faced 89 separate charges: racketeering, drug trafficking, money laundering, abuse of authority, conspiracy to distribute controlled substances, obstruction of justice, bribery, witness tampering. Each charge carried a potential sentence of up to 20 years. Combined, he was looking at multiple consecutive life sentences without possibility of parole. His arraignment was held in federal court in Minneapolis. The courtroom was packed. Victims' families filled every seat. Overflow crowds gathered outside. Thornhill entered in handcuffs and an orange jumpsuit. His hair was disheveled. His face was pale. He looked nothing like the confident governor who had addressed the state legislature just weeks earlier. His attorney entered a plea of not guilty. He argued that his client was being scapegoated for systemic failures beyond his control. Federal prosecutors responded with evidence. They presented encrypted emails showing Thornhill personally approving drug shipments. They displayed financial records documenting $847 million in laundered cartel money. They played recordings of him recruiting corrupt officials. The judge presiding over the arraignment set bail at $100 million. Thornhill couldn't pay it. He was remanded to federal custody pending trial. As marshals led him from the courtroom, someone in the gallery shouted, "How many kids did you kill?" Thornhill didn't look back. Comment justice if you believe he should never see freedom again. The investigation revealed one final horrifying detail. Governor Thornhill had been planning to expand the network nationally. Seized documents showed blueprints for operations in 8 additional states: Michigan, Ohio, Indiana, Illinois, Missouri, Kansas, Nebraska, Oklahoma. Each state had been surveyed. Key officials had been identified. Recruitment strategies had been developed. Financial infrastructure was being established. The plan was called Phase 2. If the federal raids had come 6 months later, the CJNG cartel would have controlled drug distribution across the entire central United States. Thornhill's vision was to create a protected corridor from the Mexican border to the Canadian border, a supply chain that moved narcotics through the heartland without interference. He would have succeeded, but one whistleblower changed everything. A low-level logistics coordinator named Maria Gutierrez had worked in the network for 8 months. She was paid $4,200 per month to manage shipping schedules. But when she saw what was really happening, she couldn't stay silent. She contacted the FBI in December 2025. She provided documents. She wore a wire to meetings. She risked her life to expose the truth. Maria is now in witness protection. Her testimony will be critical at trial. Without her courage, this network might still be operating. If you believe whistleblowers are heroes, comment protect them below. The trial is scheduled to begin in August 2026. Legal experts predict it will last at least 6 months. Over 60 individuals have agreed to testify against Thornhill in exchange for reduced sentences. They'll describe how he built the network, how he recruited them, how he threatened anyone who tried to leave. The prosecution's case is overwhelming. Recordings, financial records, encrypted communications, testimony from insiders. Legal analysts give Thornhill less than a 2% chance of acquittal. If convicted on all counts, he will spend the rest of his life in federal prison. No parole, no appeals, no second chances. The man who was once the governor of Minnesota will die behind bars, and the network he built will be dismantled piece by piece. This story is a warning. Power does not always need violence. Sometimes it only needs silence and ambition. Governor Thornhill didn't invade Minnesota with armies. He infiltrated it with money and promises. He turned desperate people into accomplices. He weaponized government systems against the public. He built an empire on the bodies of overdose victims. And he did it all while smiling for cameras and giving speeches about public safety. The cost was measured in lives. Thousands of overdoses, hundreds of deaths, families destroyed, communities poisoned. Also, the CJNG cartel could expand its reach into the American heartland. But the system fought back. Federal agents risked their lives to expose the truth. Whistleblowers came forward despite the danger. Honest officers refused to look the other way. And now the reckoning has begun. If you are still watching, tap like so more people see this story. Comment expose if you want this corruption dragged into the light. Share this with everyone who needs to understand how deep infiltration can go. Remember, this is a fictional dramatization created to illustrate the dangers of political corruption and organized crime infiltration. But the warning is real. Stay vigilant. Question authority. Demand accountability. Because the next network might already be building in your city, and you might not see it until it's too late.